For as long as anyone could remember, Earth had been a quiet planet. Its blue oceans and green lands seemed peaceful, almost fragile, in a galaxy filled with massive fleets, countless stars, and civilizations that spanned light years. Many other species thought of humans as simple creatures, clever enough to survive but not powerful enough to change the course of galactic events. They looked at Earth as a small, insignificant dot, barely worth noticing. That was exactly how humans wanted it. For decades, humans worked in silence. While the galaxy argued over territories, technology, and power, humans dug deeper, under mountains, beneath oceans, and far below the surface of their cities. Only a select few, trusted beyond measure, knew the truth of what was being built. This was not a small project, nor a fleet that could be hidden in secret. It was enormous, beyond the imagination of the most advanced alien engineers. They called it Project Leviathan. The project was a secret even to the nations of Earth. Only a handful of scientists, military leaders, and engineers had clearance to see what was happening. They worked quietly, without pride or show, because they understood something the rest of the galaxy did not. Patience was more powerful than speed, and silence could be a weapon in itself. Every component, every energy core, every kilometer of titanium and steel was planned and tested underground, hidden from satellites, sensors, and prying eyes. Humans built their secret in plain sight, using the oceans, the mountains, and even the deserts to shield their work. Outside of Earth, the galaxy moved on. The Galactic Council, the ruling body of countless star systems, barely paid attention to the blue planet. They assumed humans were isolated, harmless, and predictable. Some species openly mocked them. Observers reported that humans were slow, unremarkable, and weak compared to even the smallest starship fleets. They laughed at the idea that Earth could ever compete with advanced alien civilizations. The Council believed their calculations were perfect, their predictions infallible. They did not know that humans were planning far beyond their estimates. Humans did not care about the mockery. They did not need recognition or praise. What they needed was to ensure that Earth could survive, that it could protect itself if the galaxy ever turned its gaze toward them. And so they built the oceans became their workshop. Deep beneath the waves, massive structures formed, chambers that could contain entire cities, energy cores that rivaled small stars, and docking bays that could hold ships larger than any seen before. Engineers moved silently, using technology that humans had perfected over generations. Every weld, every circuit, every laser-cut panel was precise. Nothing was rushed. Humans knew that one mistake could ruin decades of planning. Above the surface, life continued as normal. People went to work, children went to school, and cities thrived. To anyone looking from space, Earth looked the same as it had for centuries. No one suspected that beneath their oceans, a fleet unlike any other was coming to life. Humans had mastered the art of hiding in plain sight. They had learned to mask energy signatures, to reflect sensors, and to scatter emissions in ways that no alien technology could detect. For those watching, it was as if Earth were doing nothing at all. Only occasionally, strange signals would appear in the outer systems, signals that were different from anything the Council had ever seen. Ships monitoring Earth recorded unusual patterns, unexplained bursts of energy, and gravitational fluctuations that made scientists scratch their heads. Some sent fleets to investigate. All fleets returned with the same report. Nothing unusual. Just a quiet, peaceful planet spinning in silence. But humans were aware of every observation. They had allowed the Council to believe nothing was happening, knowing that every second the aliens spent doubting them was a second they gained in preparation. Inside the hidden chambers, humans worked long shifts, sometimes days without sleep. They were not motivated by fame or glory. They were motivated by something older, something deeper, a desire to survive, to protect, and to prove that they were more than the galaxy ever believed. Engineers watched as enormous pieces of the Leviathan took shape, connecting like pieces of a puzzle that stretched across kilometers. Energy cores hummed with power, thrumming in a rhythm almost alive. Every part of the project seemed to pulse with purpose. The humans who worked on Project Leviathan were ordinary in every way. They ate, laughed, and argued like anyone else. But inside, they carried a quiet determination. They knew that their work could change everything, and they accepted the weight of that responsibility. They worked for generations, knowing that most of the galaxy would never understand their patience or their resolve. And in a way, that was exactly what made them stronger. For years, the Council's spies tried to detect something unusual. Sensors, satellites, and advanced alien fleets searched every inch of Earth and its orbit. They sent probes scanning for energy signatures, unusual movement, or anything out of the ordinary. All they found were normal cities, ordinary ships, and nothing that suggested humans had built anything extraordinary. Every failed detection only reinforced the galaxy's belief that Earth was insignificant. Humans watched this with quiet satisfaction. Every laugh at their expense, every report of their weakness was a part of the plan. Humans had learned a truth the galaxy would never accept easily. The quietest ones are often the most dangerous. While others showed off, humans hid. While others fought over recognition, humans prepared. And while others underestimated them, humans waited for the right moment to reveal the truth. That moment came unexpectedly. A subtle signal, faint but deliberate, left Earth's orbit and traveled into deep space. It was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. They dismissed it at first, calling it a glitch, a harmless pulse or interference from a solar storm. But the signal repeated, steady and controlled, almost as if it were a heartbeat. Scientists across alien systems tried to trace it, but it was elusive, always just beyond reach. Every attempt to identify its source failed, and all the while humans observed silently, knowing that the galaxy's eyes were on them but blind to the real story beneath the waves. In the control rooms of Project Leviathan, the human engineers gathered around glowing displays. They watched data flow, systems activate, and energy cores come online. For the first time, the full scale of what they had built was visible, not just to them, but to anyone who might one day witness it. The Leviathan was not just a ship. It was a fortress, a city, a power unlike anything the galaxy had imagined. It could travel across star systems, sustain life for decades, and defend itself against the most advanced fleets in existence. Some of the engineers paused to reflect on what this meant. They had built a symbol of human determination, ingenuity, and patience. They had built something that would force the galaxy to rethink everything they thought they knew about Earth and its people, but they also knew the risks. If revealed too soon, it could spark fear, envy, or war. Timing would be everything. Humanity had waited for the right moment, and now, as the Leviathan's systems hummed to life, that moment was near. Outside, the world remained unaware. Ships sailed on oceans, planes flew in the skies, and life carried on as normal. But beneath the surface, a silent giant stirred, waiting for the moment it would finally rise. Humans had built a secret that could not be ignored, and the galaxy's arrogance had blinded them to the truth. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one that would change the perception of humanity forever. What the galaxy believed was a quiet, weak planet was actually home to patience, cunning, and extraordinary power. Humans had learned that survival was not about proving oneself every day. It was about preparing quietly, enduring ridicule, and waiting for the right moment to reveal strength. And that moment, they knew, would astonish the galaxy beyond imagination. For now, the Leviathan rested beneath the waves, a hidden guardian, a promise of what humans could achieve. But soon, very soon, the silence would end. The world above would continue its ordinary life, unaware that the greatest secret in human history was ready to rise. And when it did, the galaxy would finally see that Earth was not just a planet. It was the beginning of a force they had underestimated for far too long. The Galactic Council had always looked at Earth with amusement. To them, humans were nothing more than a minor curiosity, a species that could barely maintain its own planet, let alone project power into space. Reports of Earth's technological progress were slow, sometimes contradictory, and always unimpressive compared to the grand fleets and starfaring civilizations across the galaxy. When the faint signals from Earth first reached Council sensors, many dismissed them immediately. "It is a minor anomaly," one of the senior advisors had said, "nothing more than a flicker of energy from their sun." But humans had learned something the galaxy had not yet understood. Perception could be manipulated, and underestimation could be turned into a weapon. While aliens laughed and ignored them, humans prepared. And now, as the signals repeated, more focused and controlled than ever before, the Council began to take notice. That attention, however, was mixed with disbelief. "Perhaps it is some natural phenomenon," one scientist said. "A solar flare or a magnetic storm, nothing more." The words were calm, almost dismissive, but behind them was unease. A subtle shift in gravity had been detected near the moon. It was not enormous, but it was precise, consistent, and unlike anything recorded before. Small teams were sent to investigate, but their findings were always inconclusive. Probes and ships returned with empty data files or corrupted readings. Even the most advanced instruments could not pierce the hidden layers humans had built around their planet. The Council began to argue, as they always did when confronted with uncertainty. One faction called for investigation, claiming Earth might be developing something dangerous. Another laughed and dismissed the idea, insisting that humans were primitive, incapable of building anything remotely threatening. A 5,000-ton asteroid could do more damage than they ever could, one counselor remarked in scorn. The Draconians, one of the largest and most confident species in the sector, were particularly vocal. They had long prided themselves on intelligence, military strength, and superiority. To them, humans were amusing, a species to mock and ignore. They sent messages filled with sarcasm and ridicule, joking that Earth's greatest achievement was surviving its own history without blowing itself up. They did not realize that humans were listening to every transmission, recording every insult, and quietly noting each assumption of weakness. Inside Earth's hidden facilities, the human engineers watched and listened. They had access to transmissions and sensor readings far beyond what anyone expected. Every motion of Council fleets, every probe sent toward Earth, every calculation made by alien scientists was observed, analyzed, and cataloged. Humans did not respond to the mockery, at least not yet. They understood that patience and preparation were far more effective than anger or hasty retaliation. The silence of humans frustrated the galaxy. Fleets were dispatched to monitor the planet more closely. They orbited Earth, sending signals, scanning for any hint of activity. Some tried to intercept the mysterious energy bursts, while others attempted to map gravitational anomalies, but every effort failed. Ships returned reporting nothing unusual or data inconclusive. The aliens assumed this was incompetence, their own technology failing to detect the faint signs of a minor planetary project. What they did not realize was that humans had deliberately concealed their work, creating false readings, masking energy signatures, and using the oceans, mountains, and atmospheric layers to hide everything. Meanwhile, human engineers continued their work without interruption. They moved massive components, tested energy cores, and calibrated systems that would one day make the Leviathan not just a ship, but a fortress, a city, and a symbol of human ingenuity. Every detail mattered. Engineers adjusted propulsion systems, ensured structural integrity, and calculated trajectories with precision no alien sensor could anticipate. It was slow, methodical, and exhausting work, but every moment brought them closer to the goal. One of the most remarkable aspects of Project Leviathan was its scale. Unlike any other starship in history, it was built to endure, not just survive a battle. Its size alone could eclipse entire alien fleets. Within its hull were habitats, research labs, energy cores capable of powering whole planets, and defense systems that could withstand attacks from the most advanced weapons known in the galaxy. For humans, it was not about aggression. It was about survival and deterrence. They had seen how civilizations rose and fell in the galaxy, and they understood that power alone could not ensure safety. Humans wanted control over their own fate, and they were building it quietly with precision, far away from prying eyes. As the Council debated what to do, humans prepared to reveal themselves, but only on their terms. They had learned that timing was everything. If they showed their strength too soon, it might provoke preemptive attacks or spark wars they were not yet ready to fight. If they waited too long, the galaxy might act out of impatience, striking without understanding. Humans calculated each step, each move, and each signal with care. Their silence was strategic, their patience deliberate. The first visible sign that humans were ready came not from weapons, not from fleets, but from a signal, a broadcast unlike anything the galaxy had encountered. It was precise, controlled, and unmistakable. For the first time, every Council system registered a pulse from Earth that could not be ignored. The Draconians squinted at their monitors, trying to interpret it. Scientists across multiple species debated for hours, their confusion growing. Every calculation failed, every theory fell short. They were staring at something they did not understand, something humans had carefully concealed for decades. At the same time, humans watched carefully. Engineers and military leaders observed, council reactions recording every expression, every analysis, every frantic calculation. They had not built the Leviathan to intimidate, at least not directly. They had built it to be undeniable proof that humans were more than the galaxy expected. And as they observed the growing panic, the quiet satisfaction of generations of preparation filled them with a rare human emotion, pride. Even though the council began to sense that something extraordinary was happening, none of their fleets or spies could pinpoint the source. They could feel the presence of power, hear the echo of energy, but when they tried to locate it, it vanished. Ships reported ghost signals, fluctuating gravitational fields, and interference in ways no alien science could fully explain. Humans had built layers upon layers of concealment, every system designed to hide the truth until the right moment. Inside Earth, preparations accelerated. Engineers ran final simulations, tested every system multiple times, and made adjustments to ensure that when the Leviathan finally emerged, it would operate flawlessly. It was more than a ship, it was a statement. Humans knew the galaxy would not take them seriously until they revealed the full scale of their power. And now, after decades of work, that moment was approaching. Humans also understood the value of observation. While the Council tried to guess what Earth was doing, humans learned from every misstep, every assumption, every calculation. They studied alien psychology, military strategy, and political hierarchy. They learned how arrogance blinded civilizations, how confidence created weakness, and how patience could turn ridicule into astonishment. The Leviathan was not just an engineering marvel. It was a culmination of strategy, human intelligence, and patience. As the Council began to recognize the signals as deliberate rather than accidental, fear began to creep in. They could not identify the source, they could not measure the full scale, and they could not predict what would happen next. What they thought was a quiet, weak planet was revealing itself as something far more powerful than any of them had expected. The Draconians, who had mocked humans for centuries, suddenly found themselves questioning their assumptions. Scientists across the galaxy debated what could exist beneath the surface of such a small, ordinary planet. The answer eluded them. And through it all, humans remained calm. There were no hasty attacks, no desperate broadcasts, no reckless displays. Every move was deliberate, measured, and perfectly timed. They understood that fear was a tool as powerful as any weapon, and they wielded it with precision. The Council did not realize it, but humans were teaching them a lesson they would never forget. Do not underestimate patience, cunning, or the power of those who quietly prepare. For humans, this was not about proving themselves to the galaxy. It was about ensuring survival and demonstrating that preparation could outweigh brute force. Every system in the Leviathan hummed with energy, every engine prepared for deployment, and every crew member ready to witness the moment humanity would emerge from silence. They had waited decades, endured ridicule, and remained unseen. But now the galaxy was beginning to notice. The faint signals from Earth continued, growing stronger, yet still controlled. They did not threaten, they did not provoke, they simply existed as evidence of a hidden reality. For the first time, the Council could not ignore the humans. They could not explain them. They could only watch and wonder what lay beneath the oceans, beneath the mountains, beneath the quiet surface of the blue planet. And humans continued to watch the watchers. They recorded every reaction, studied every expression, and refined every system in response. Generations of preparation were coming. For decades, humans had lived quietly, watched and planned while the galaxy ignored them. The faint signals, the hidden construction, and the silent patience had all been preparation. Now the time had come. The Leviathan, Earth's hidden supercarrier, was ready to rise. It was not an ordinary ship. No alien had ever imagined such a construct. It was a fortress, a city, a weapon, and a beacon all in one. And it was about to appear in the open, in a way that would astonish everyone. The oceans above the hidden ship trembled first. Tiny waves grew larger, then massive currents shifted as if the planet itself was responding to something beneath. Ships in orbit detected changes in gravity, strange ripples that made instruments fail. Satellites went dark or transmitted corrupted data. Alien fleets that had come to observe Earth could not explain what was happening. Their calculations failed, their instruments went haywire, and panic quietly spread among the observers. Inside Earth's hidden control rooms, engineers and commanders watched calmly. Years of preparation, decades of secrecy, and countless calculations were coming together. Every system, from propulsion to shields to energy cores, was active. The hum of the Leviathan was unlike any sound humans had ever heard. It resonated like a heartbeat, deep and powerful, and yet controlled, as if the ship itself were alive. The Leviathan had been designed to hide in plain sight. It had blended with the oceans, masked by gravitational distortions and energy-dampening fields. But now it was ready to break free. Slowly, deliberately, enormous sections began to rise. Water boiled and churned, creating massive plumes that shot high into the sky. The surface of the ocean seemed to part as kilometers of black, titanium-reinforced armor emerged from beneath. The scale was impossible to comprehend. Even the most advanced alien sensors could not detect the full size of the ship until it had almost completely surfaced. In orbit, Council observers froze. Their instruments had picked up anomalies before, but nothing prepared them for this. Ships that had come to investigate were flung back by sudden gravitational waves. Communication channels filled with confused and panicked voices, each trying to explain what they saw and each failing. The Leviathan reflected sunlight in dazzling waves, and its sheer mass created ripples in spacetime. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Draconians, who had mocked humans for centuries, watched in stunned silence. Their arrogance evaporated as they realized that every assumption they had made about Earth was wrong. Every report claiming humans were weak, unremarkable, or primitive now seemed absurd. The Leviathan was not just a ship. It was an undeniable demonstration of human ingenuity, patience, and power. Yet there was no violence. The Leviathan had not fired a single weapon, nor had it made any hostile move. Its emergence was a statement, a revelation, a reminder that humans could not be dismissed. It floated above the oceans, massive but controlled, silent but commanding. The galaxy had never seen patience and power combined in such a way. Inside the Leviathan, humans moved efficiently. Engineers checked systems. Energy cores pulsed steadily and crews prepared for deployment, but there was no haste. Their calm contrasted sharply with the chaos above. Years of training, decades of planning, and generations of secrecy had taught them that power was most effective when exercised with control. They were ready to show the galaxy that humans were not reckless but precise, thoughtful, and capable of mastering forces far beyond what anyone had imagined. Reports from alien fleets were frantic. "Impossible," said one officer. "It defies all calculations." Another screamed, "It cannot exist." Council debates erupted over the nature of the Leviathan. Was it a weapon? A city? A fortress? How could a species thought to be primitive construct something so massive, so powerful, and so hidden? No one had an answer. Even scientists who had spent their lives studying human technology admitted they had underestimated the ingenuity of a species they believed to be insignificant. Meanwhile, humans observed. Every movement of the alien fleets, every reaction of the Council was recorded and analyzed. This was not just a demonstration of strength. It was a lesson in observation, patience, and the power of preparation. Humans had learned that rushing, shouting, or boasting could backfire. Silence, calculation, and precision allowed them to reveal themselves on their terms, at a time when the galaxy would be most astonished. The scale of the Leviathan was staggering. Kilometers of reinforced armor, energy cores that pulsed like stars, docking bays large enough for massive fleets, and propulsion systems that could move entire sections of the galaxy, all hidden beneath the oceans until this moment. Every component had been tested and calibrated for decades. Every system worked in harmony, creating a single living construct. Alien scientists tried to estimate its power. Some claimed it could rival the output of entire planets. Others insisted it must be an impossible combination of materials and energy, something beyond known physics. Debates raged in council chambers, but no one could provide a definitive answer. They were staring at human patience, human ingenuity, and human ambition brought to life. The emergence of the Leviathan also had an emotional impact. Humans had never sought revenge or recognition, but watching the galaxy's disbelief and astonishment was a quiet, satisfying moment. Engineers smiled, not out of arrogance, but from the realization that years of effort, decades of planning and careful patience had worked. Humanity had achieved what no one had expected. For a moment, the galaxy fell silent. Not a single weapon fired, not a single fleet advanced. Even the most aggressive species paused, realizing that this was not a threat in the conventional sense. The Leviathan did not need to attack. Its mere presence demanded respect. It was proof that humans were not to be underestimated, that patience, planning, and determination could surpass brute force and arrogance. As the Leviathan stabilized above the oceans, humans transmitted a simple signal, visible to all nearby systems. It was not a threat, nor a declaration of war. It was a message of existence, control, and preparation. We are here. We have been preparing. We are not to be underestimated. The calm, precise tone contrasted sharply with the chaos in alien fleets. It was a statement of confidence, a demonstration of the human ability to act without panic, to command without violence, and to reveal power without aggression. In the council chambers, debates raged. What should they do? How could they respond to a species they had dismissed for centuries? The Leviathan's presence had shattered assumptions, overturned calculations, and challenged every perception of human capability. The galaxy realized that Earth was no longer a quiet, insignificant planet. It had become a symbol of hidden strength, of careful planning, and of the power of patience. For humans, the emergence of the Leviathan was not the end of their efforts, but the beginning of a new phase. They had revealed themselves, but not in haste or anger. They had shown their strength, but not in a reckless display of violence. The Leviathan's rise was a demonstration of control, calculation, and intelligence, qualities that humans had mastered in their own way. The Leviathan floated silently above the oceans, massive and commanding. Its presence challenged every assumption the galaxy had ever held about Earth and its people. The Draconians and other observers could only stare in disbelief, trying to comprehend the scale, the technology, and the audacity of a species they had dismissed for centuries. Inside, humans continued to operate with precision. Energy cores hummed, systems balanced perfectly, and crews moved efficiently, aware that the galaxy was watching. They had prepared for this moment for decades, and they executed it flawlessly. Every display, every signal, every detail had been carefully planned to maximize impact without creating unnecessary conflict. And while alien fleets debated, calculated, and panicked, humans had already achieved their goal. They had changed the perception of their species forever. The galaxy would never again see Earth as weak, insignificant, or unremarkable. The Leviathan's emergence had shattered old assumptions and replaced them with something new: astonishment, respect, and a dawning understanding that humans were capable of far more than anyone had believed. The oceans began to calm as the Leviathan stabilized. The massive waves and boiling waters subsided, leaving only the enormous dark outline of the Supercarrier floating above the surface. For the first time, anyone who looked at Earth could see a new reality. Humans were not just surviving. They were ready, powerful, and patient. They had waited in silence, and now they had revealed themselves in a way that the galaxy would never forget. And deep within the Leviathan, humans prepared for what came next. They had revealed their power, but the story was far from over. They had shown the galaxy what patience and preparation could achieve, and now, they would continue to demonstrate that humanity's strength was not just in technology, but in intelligence, strategy, and endurance. The Leviathan was no longer a secret. It was a symbol, a statement, a reminder that humans had waited, prepared, and perfected their plan in silence. And when the time was right, they had emerged to astonish the entire galaxy. The moment the Leviathan fully emerged, the galaxy was stunned. Alien fleets that had come to observe Earth were frozen in disbelief. Scientists, military commanders, and diplomats alike struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. The ship was unlike anything known in galactic records. It was massive, powerful, and precise, a combination of technology, strategy, and human patience that no one had predicted. For the first time, the galaxy began to realize that Earth was not what it had seemed. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions. Messages flew between star systems as members tried to assess the situation. "What is that?" one counselor demanded. It cannot exist. Another argued that it must be an illusion, a trick, or a simulation. None could offer an explanation. Every measurement they attempted either failed or produced results they could not believe. Sensors overloaded, gravitational fields warped, and energy readings spiked in ways that made the most advanced alien technology appear primitive. The Draconians, who had long mocked humans, were silent. Their fleets hesitated, unsure whether to attack, retreat, or observe. Pride had been replaced by awe, fear, and confusion. They realized that every assumption they had made about Earth and its people was wrong. For centuries they had believed humans were weak, inconsequential, and incapable of true power. The Leviathan shattered those beliefs in moments. Across the galaxy, news of Earth's emergence spread rapidly. Planets that had once dismissed humans as primitive began to take notice. Scientists debated, politicians panicked, and military leaders assessed what had long been underestimated. The humans had not just built a ship. They had built a statement, a message, and a demonstration of power that was undeniable. For humans, this reaction was expected. They had observed the galaxy for decades, understood its arrogance, and prepared accordingly. The Leviathan's purpose was never to attack but to reveal, to teach, and to shift perception. Humans knew that showing strength without aggression could accomplish more than any battle. They had waited, prepared, and now, the galaxy was beginning to understand that patience, intelligence, and planning were as important as weapons. The council debated furiously. Some proposed immediate action, suggesting fleets should attack before the humans could use the Leviathan's full power. Others warned that any aggression could trigger a response they could not predict. Every calculation proved inconclusive. The ship was massive, its energy output beyond comprehension, and its technology something no alien civilization had ever faced. It was no ordinary supercarrier. It was a fortress, a city, and a weapon all in one, capable of altering the balance of power in the galaxy. Meanwhile, humans observed the galaxy's reaction carefully. From the control rooms inside the Leviathan, engineers, commanders, and analysts monitored every transmission, every report, and every reaction. They did not act in haste. They did not fire a weapon. They simply existed as a demonstration of what humans could achieve when patient, precise, and prepared. The calm, calculated presence of the Leviathan contrasted sharply with the chaos in the council chambers, showing that humans had mastered the art of timing and restraint. Alien scientists attempted to measure the Leviathan's capabilities. They scanned for energy output, tested shields, and calculated propulsion potential. Every estimate failed. Data conflicted, sensors produced errors, and predictions fell apart. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, dismissed, and mocked. Now all their assumptions were collapsing. The galaxy was realizing, too late, that humans had been quietly preparing, building, and observing, all while appearing weak and insignificant. For humans, the response of the galaxy served as confirmation that patience and planning were more powerful than brute force. They had chosen when and how to reveal themselves. The Leviathan's emergence was not a victory in battle. It was a victory in perception. The galaxy had always underestimated them, and now, for the first time, that arrogance was being confronted with undeniable proof of human capability. The Leviathan itself was designed to impress without aggression. Massive hulls reflected starlight. Energy cores pulsed with steady power, and defensive systems hummed with precision. Its very presence demonstrated human technological mastery. Ships that approached too closely found themselves pushed back by gravitational distortions, energy shields, and invisible fields of force. No attack was necessary. The Leviathan's existence alone was enough to command respect. For the first time, the Council understood that humans had not been hiding out of fear. They had been building a foundation for survival, intelligence, and eventual recognition. While alien civilizations had rushed, flaunted their power, and fought wars for dominance, humans had taken the opposite approach. They had observed, calculated, and perfected their plan in silence. The Leviathan was the result, a demonstration of patience, intelligence, and restraint. News of Earth's revelation reached far corners of the galaxy. Historians began speculating about human potential. Philosophers debated their nature, and politicians recalculated strategies. The species once dismissed as primitive was now a force to be reckoned with. The Leviathan had not just shifted perception, it had shifted power. For the first time, Humans were recognized not as an insignificant planet but as a species capable of altering galactic dynamics. The Draconians, who had prided themselves on being the dominant military species, were particularly affected. Pride gave way to humility, fear, and curiosity. They began reconsidering all previous judgments about humans. How could a species they dismissed for centuries produce such a technological marvel? How had humans concealed it so effectively? And most importantly, what other capabilities might humans have that were still hidden? In the midst of the astonishment, humans remained calm. Engineers monitored systems, commanders coordinated procedures, and analysts recorded every reaction. The Leviathan's emergence was not a display of arrogance. It was a demonstration of careful strategy. Humans had learned that calm, calculated power could achieve far more than aggression, and now the galaxy was witnessing that lesson firsthand. The Leviathan's size, design, and technological sophistication made it impossible for alien civilizations to ignore. It was more than a ship. It was a city, a fortress, and a symbol of human ingenuity. Its defensive systems were active, its energy cores pulsating steadily, and its propulsion systems fully operational. Yet it did not attack. It did not intimidate with weapons. It simply existed, showing what humans could achieve when underestimated and allowed to prepare in peace. Across the galaxy, aliens began to debate humanity's intentions. Was the Leviathan a weapon of war? A message of dominance? Or simply proof that humans had mastered technology far beyond expectation? No one could answer definitively. The Leviathan's emergence had shattered centuries of assumptions, and the galaxy had no choice but to acknowledge that Earth was no longer a quiet, weak planet. Humans understood that perception was as important as power. They had carefully chosen this moment, revealed the Leviathan with precision, and allowed the galaxy to witness its presence. The reactions of alien fleets, the Council, and scientists were being recorded for future analysis. Humanity had proven that patience, observation, and careful preparation could be more powerful than fleets, weapons, and brute force. As the Leviathan hovered above the oceans, its presence sent ripples of astonishment across the galaxy. Ships that had once ignored Earth now approached with caution. The Draconians reconsidered their arrogance. Scientists tried to calculate the ship's energy output, propulsion systems, and defensive capabilities, only to fail repeatedly. The Leviathan was not just a technological marvel, it was a statement that humans could not be underestimated. Inside, humans continued to operate with calm precision. Every system, every energy core, every defensive mechanism was functioning as designed. They had revealed themselves to the galaxy, but they had done so without aggression. The Leviathan's emergence was a statement of capability, patience, and strategy. Humans had waited decades to show the galaxy who they were, and now the galaxy had no choice but to take notice. The Leviathan's appearance marked a turning point. For centuries, humans had been dismissed, underestimated, and mocked. Now their patience, ingenuity, and preparation had transformed them from an overlooked species into a force that demanded attention and respect. The galaxy would never again see Earth as weak or insignificant. Humans had quietly prepared, and the Leviathan had revealed their strength in a way that no one could ignore. The message was clear. Humans were patient, intelligent, and capable. They had waited for the right moment, prepared in silence, and emerged with power that could astonish the galaxy. The Leviathan was more than a ship. It was proof that humans were a species that could think, plan, and act on a scale that no alien civilization had anticipated. And as alien fleets observed, council members debated, and scientists calculated, humans inside the Leviathan remained calm. They had shown their strength, but they had done so with control, intelligence, and patience. They had emerged from secrecy not to attack, but to reveal that the galaxy had underestimated them for too long. The Leviathan's presence marked the beginning of a new era. The galaxy had been forced to acknowledge that Earth was not just a quiet, weak planet. It was, The Leviathan floated silently above the oceans, a massive black silhouette against the blue and white of Earth. The oceans had calmed, waves no longer boiled, and the sky reflected the enormity of the hidden supercarrier rising from the depths. For the first time, the galaxy could see the full scale of what humans had built, and the reaction was immediate. Panic, awe, fear, and curiosity spread in every direction. Fleets that had once mocked or ignored Earth now hovered at a cautious distance. their instruments failing to fully capture the Leviathan's scale or capabilities. Inside the Leviathan, humans worked calmly as they had for decades. Engineers monitored energy cores, commanders coordinated systems, and analysts studied alien reactions. They had spent years learning the galaxy's behaviors, observing fleets, councils, and scientists. They had seen how arrogance blinded civilizations, how assumptions could be deadly, and how the smallest misstep could lead to chaos. Now they were applying every lesson they had learned. The humans did not send threats, nor did they fire weapons. Instead, they transmitted a single, simple message across every open channel, visible to all nearby systems. It was not a call for war or a declaration of dominance. It was a statement of existence, of preparation, and of human resolve. We built in silence, not for war, but so none may ever silence us again. The message was calm, precise, and unwavering. The galaxy did not know how to respond. Council members debated furiously, fleets repositioned cautiously, and scientists scrambled to analyze the data. They tried to measure the energy output of the Leviathan, to understand its propulsion and defense systems, and to predict what humans might do next. Every calculation failed. The Leviathan was beyond comprehension, a testament to intelligence, strategy, and preparation. The Draconians, whose arrogance had once been unmatched, were speechless. Their fleets paused in the void, unsure whether to engage, retreat, or simply observe. Every assumption they had made about humanity now seemed laughable. For centuries, they had dismissed humans as weak, inconsequential, and incapable of great technological feats, and now they were faced with undeniable proof that every judgment had been wrong. Other species across the galaxy reacted in similar ways. Some whispered that humans must have discovered forbidden knowledge or ancient technology. Others suggested that the Leviathan was a combination of natural and artificial phenomena, something beyond conventional physics. Yet no one could offer a concrete explanation. For the first time, humanity had forced the galaxy to admit that they had underestimated a species entirely. Inside the Leviathan, humans continued their work with deliberate precision. They did not panic. They did not show arrogance, and they did not react to the chaos around them. Every system operated flawlessly. Energy cores pulsed steadily, propulsion systems calibrated automatically, and defensive shields created a protective field that even the most advanced fleets could not breach. The calmness of the crew contrasted sharply with the confusion outside. Humans understood that restraint was as powerful as force, and the Leviathan's presence demonstrated that principle perfectly. As the message spread, council debates grew more frantic. Some called for immediate attacks, arguing that humans might strike first if provoked. Others warned that any aggression could provoke a response they could not contain. Every fleet commander hesitated. Every calculation produced more uncertainty than certainty. No one had predicted that a species they considered weak could produce a construct of such size, sophistication, and strategic thought. Across distant star systems, observers speculated about the scale of human intelligence. Philosophers debated what it meant for a species to prepare in silence for decades. Politicians reconsidered alliances, realizing that humanity could no longer be ignored. Military leaders reevaluated tactics and strategies, understanding that traditional assumptions about power were no longer valid. The Leviathan had done more than appear. It had reshaped the way the galaxy thought about humans entirely. For humans, the reaction was both expected and gratifying. They had studied the galaxy carefully, understood its arrogance, and anticipated every reaction. The Leviathan had been designed not just as a ship, but as a message. Its appearance, combined with the simple broadcast, demonstrated that humans had patience, intelligence, and strategic skill far beyond what anyone had imagined. It was not a threat, yet it commanded respect. It did not attack, yet it could have. Humans had revealed power without violence, showing the galaxy a new model of strength, one rooted in preparation, control, and vision. The Leviathan was not just a technological marvel. It represented human resilience, ingenuity, and foresight. Every engineer, scientist, and commander who had worked in secret for decades now knew that their efforts had succeeded. They had built something that not only protected Earth, but also demanded the attention of the galaxy. They had taken ridicule, mockery, and disbelief and transformed it into astonishment, respect, and even fear. Alien fleets attempted to communicate, but humans responded on their own terms. Every message was calculated, precise, and deliberate. There were no threats, no demands, no unnecessary explanations. Humans had learned the value of letting actions speak louder than words. The Leviathan itself was the message, and the calm, deliberate transmission reinforced it. Humans had prepared in silence, and now the galaxy could not ignore them. In council chambers, leaders debated endlessly. Should they attempt diplomacy? Should they strike preemptively? Should they observe from a safe distance? Each option carried risk, and every calculation led to more uncertainty. Humans had created a reality where their potential could not be easily measured or predicted. Every step the council took seemed hesitant because the Leviathan was more than a ship. It was a demonstration of the human ability to think, plan, and act with patience and precision. The Draconians, who had once mocked humans for centuries, slowly began to grasp the magnitude of what they were facing. They realized that humans had prepared for the galaxy's arrogance, its invasions, and its assumptions. The Leviathan was a fortress, yes, but it was also a statement. Humans had mastered strategy, technology, and observation. They had turned every insult and every assumption of weakness into an advantage, and the galaxy was now witnessing it in full. Other civilizations also began to change their perception. Historians speculated about the potential of human society. Philosophers debated the morality and foresight of their actions, and scientists struggled to model the Leviathan's systems. What had once been considered a minor, isolated species now commanded attention and respect across light years. The emergence of the Leviathan was a turning point. It was a visible, undeniable demonstration that humans were capable of far more than anyone had believed. Within the Leviathan, humans maintained calm precision. Every system hummed with efficiency. Crew members moved with purpose, coordinating operations, monitoring energy flow, and ensuring that every subsystem worked in harmony. They had waited for this moment for decades, and now their patience was paying off. The galaxy was witnessing the result of generations of preparation, intelligence, and strategic thinking. The Leviathan's broadcast continued to reach systems across the galaxy. It was not aggressive, not threatening, yet it communicated something profound. Humans were patient, intelligent, and prepared. They had endured ridicule, dismissal, and mockery, and yet they had remained calm, precise, and focused. The Leviathan's appearance proved that they had been underestimated for too long, and now the galaxy could no longer ignore their presence. Even as alien fleets debated how to respond, humans observed carefully. They recorded every reaction, every hesitation, every calculation made by the Council and its allies. Every observation was part of a larger strategy, a plan that had been decades in the making. The Leviathan's emergence was not the end of their effort. It was the beginning of a new era, one where humans would be recognized for their ingenuity, patience, and capability. The calm, deliberate actions of humans contrasted sharply with the chaos in alien fleets. While others panicked, humans maintained control. While others debated, humans acted precisely. While others were uncertain, humans were prepared. This demonstration of strategy, intelligence, and restraint was far more powerful than any weapon could have been. The Leviathan itself had become a symbol of human capability, patient, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. The galaxy was learning a new truth. Humans were not reckless but precise. They were not weak but patient. They were not insignificant, but capable of astonishing power when revealed at the right moment. The Leviathan had not only appeared, it had rewritten the way the galaxy perceived humanity. And while alien fleets and council members debated, humans inside the Leviathan continued their careful work. Systems operated flawlessly, energy cores pulsed steadily, shields hummed in a perfect rhythm. The ship itself was a testament to intelligence, preparation, and patience. Humans had shown that strength was not measured solely in weapons, but in the ability to plan, endure, and act at the right time. The message of the Leviathan spread across the stars. The galaxy was forced to acknowledge that humans had been preparing in silence for decades, building something extraordinary, and revealing it only when the time was right. Fleets paused, councils debated, and scientists stared. The galaxy was still in shock. For weeks, fleets had hovered near Earth, debating, analyzing, and struggling to understand what they had witnessed. The Leviathan's emergence had rewritten the rules of perception. forcing every species to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. Once dismissed as primitive, Earth was now recognized as a force capable of astonishing intelligence, patience, and technological mastery. Inside the Leviathan, humans remained calm, steady, and deliberate. They had prepared for this moment for decades. They had studied the galaxy's behavior, learned from its arrogance, and anticipated every reaction. Every system hummed in harmony, energy cores pulsed steadily, and defensive shields remained online. The Leviathan was more than a supercarrier. It was a fortress, a city, and a symbol of human ingenuity. While alien fleets debated how to respond, humans began to take the next step. They did not move in aggression, but in communication. They opened channels that reached every nearby system. The transmissions were calm, precise, and deliberate, intended to assure the galaxy that humanity sought recognition and respect, not war. We have prepared, we have endured, and we have emerged. We do not seek conflict, but we will defend what is ours. This message spread like wildfire. Council members, military leaders, and scientists struggled to interpret it. Some saw diplomacy, others saw a warning, but all were forced to acknowledge the truth. Humans had not just built a ship. They had built a statement of strength and patience that could not be ignored. The Leviathan itself, visible above the oceans, reinforced this message without firing a single weapon. The Draconians, once so confident, felt a humbling shock. They realized their arrogance had blinded them for centuries. They had underestimated humans at every turn, dismissing their technology, strategy, and resilience. The Leviathan was a clear reminder that humanity had been preparing quietly while the galaxy mocked them, and now that preparation had resulted in a force that could not be ignored. Other civilizations reacted similarly. Fleets that had once ignored Earth or sent minor probes now positioned themselves cautiously. Diplomats tried to understand human intentions. Scientists attempted to analyze the ship's energy output, and philosophers debated what it meant for a species to prepare so methodically. Every effort to predict humanity's next move failed because humans had acted deliberately, with foresight and without panic. Inside the Leviathan, humans monitored the galaxy closely. They observed fleets, tracked communications, and recorded every calculation made by alien civilizations. They had learned that understanding the enemy, or the observer, was as important as building technological superiority. The Leviathan's calm presence, combined with careful observation, allowed humans to maintain control of the situation without firing a shot. The galaxy began to understand a fundamental truth. Humans were patient, intelligent, and strategic. They had endured mockery, underestimation, and disbelief, yet they had never acted hastily. They had used silence as a weapon, preparation as strength, and revelation as proof of capability. The Leviathan's appearance was not just about power. It was about the intelligence to know when and how to reveal it. As weeks passed, the Leviathan became a symbol across the galaxy. Civilizations once dismissive of Earth now approached with respect, caution, and curiosity. Military leaders studied the ship, trying to understand its defenses, propulsion, and energy systems. Scientists analyzed the principles behind its construction, while politicians debated alliances and treaties. Humanity had changed the galaxy's perception not through violence, but through patience and intelligence. Inside the ship, humans prepared for the next stage, establishing communication and demonstrating capability without aggression. They had shown the galaxy their strength, and now it was time to show their reasoning. Leaders aboard the Leviathan coordinated transmissions, providing detailed data about the ship's systems, energy usage, and defensive technologies. These messages were precise, calm, and designed to educate rather than intimidate. Humans wanted the galaxy to understand that their power was measured, deliberate, and responsible. Council debates grew more intense. Some factions argued for caution, fearing retaliation or misinterpretation. Others proposed attempts at diplomacy, seeking to negotiate a new understanding with a species whose patience and intelligence had already reshaped galactic politics. It was clear that Earth had shifted the balance of perception. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. Now the galaxy could not ignore them. The Draconians, humbled by their own misjudgment, began tentative outreach. Messages of inquiry, curiosity, and even apology were sent. They wanted to understand how humans had achieved such technological mastery, how they had concealed the Leviathan for so long, and how they had anticipated every reaction from the galaxy. Humans responded deliberately, carefully, and without pride, providing explanations where appropriate and maintaining control of the narrative. The Leviathan's presence also inspired other civilizations. Some began to reconsider their assumptions about patience, strategy, and preparation. Others saw the value in observation and intelligence over brute force. Humanity had demonstrated that strength was not measured solely in weapons or fleets, but in foresight, endurance, and the ability to act decisively at the right moment. While diplomacy and observation continued, humans prepared for all contingencies. The Leviathan remained ready with every system fully operational. Energy cores hummed steadily, shields pulsed with precision, and defensive protocols were in place. The ship could respond to threats, but it would do so only when necessary. This calm readiness reinforced the message humans were sending. They were capable, intelligent, and patient, and they valued strategic thinking over reckless aggression. The galaxy slowly began to adapt. Fleets repositioned to allow safe observation of the Leviathan. Councils opened discussions about formal recognition of Earth as a capable and influential species. Scientists collaborated to understand the ship's advanced systems. Humanity's patience, strategy, and intelligence had not only preserved their security, but had reshaped the way the galaxy viewed their civilization. As time passed, humans began to extend contact in measured ways. They shared technological knowledge selectively, opened diplomatic channels, and demonstrated their ability to maintain control without hostility. The Leviathan's emergence had been a revelation, but now humans were turning astonishment into understanding. They were teaching the galaxy that intelligence, patience, and foresight were as powerful as fleets or weapons. The Draconians, once arrogant and dismissive, became cautious partners. Other civilizations that had underestimated Earth for centuries now approached with respect, eager to learn and to avoid miscalculations. The Leviathan, which had been a silent sentinel, now became a symbol of humanity's strategic thinking and long-term planning. Its presence inspired both caution and admiration across the galaxy. Inside the Leviathan, humans reflected on their success. They had endured mockery, disbelief, and doubt for decades. They had built the ultimate expression of patience, intelligence, and preparation. And now the galaxy recognized it. They had achieved something that no weapon, no fleet, and no act of aggression could have accomplished. A transformation of perception, a recognition of their capability, and a demonstration of their patience and foresight. The galaxy had been forced to admit that humans were not reckless, insignificant, or primitive. They had been underestimated, mocked, and ignored, but their preparation, intelligence, and careful action had proven them capable of astonishing feats. The Leviathan was the culmination of all of that. A ship, a city, a fortress, and a message that humans had been underestimated for too long. As the weeks turned into months, the galaxy began to adjust to the new reality. Humans established controlled communication, offered guidance where requested, and demonstrated that their power was meant to protect and preserve, not to dominate unnecessarily. The Leviathan remained a constant, visible reminder of the capability, patience, and intelligence of Earth's people. Alien fleets continued to observe. Scientists continued to study, and politicians continued to negotiate. Humanity's emergence had changed everything. The Leviathan had proven that a species underestimated for centuries could, through patience, intelligence, and preparation, achieve dominance in perception, influence, and strategic capability. In the end, the Leviathan's emergence was not an act of war or conquest. It was an act of revelation, patience, and calculated strength. Humans had demonstrated that power was not just about fleets or weapons, but about intelligence, foresight, and the ability to act at the right moment. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary, a species that had waited, prepared, and emerged to astonish without aggression. And as humans continued to operate calmly within the Leviathan, monitoring the galaxy, analyzing reactions, and maintaining readiness, they knew that their mission had been accomplished. They had transformed perception, secured recognition, and established themselves as a species that could not be ignored. The Leviathan had risen, and humanity had finally been seen for what it truly was: patient, intelligent, capable, and unstoppable when fully prepared.